Hello, students. Welcome to Section 1, Chapter 14, Section 1, Immigrants and Urban Challenges. If you were there, it is 1850 and you are a German immigrant standing on the deck of a steamboat crossing Lake Erie. Other immigrants are on board, but they are strangers to you. Soon you'll arrive at your new home in Cleveland, Ohio. You have been told that other Germans have settled there. You hope to find friends and work as a baker. Right now, America seems very big and very strange. What would you expect from your new life in America? Let's do building background. The revolutions in industry, transportation, and technology were not only the major changes in the United States in the mid 1800s. Millions of immigrants, mostly from Europe, swelled the population. Some settled in rich farmlands of the Midwest, while others moved to the cities. Okay, we're on to millions of immigrants arrive. In the mid 1800s, large numbers of immigrants crossed the Atlantic Ocean to begin new lives in the United States. More than 4 million of them settled in the United States between 1840 and 1860, mostly from Europe. More than 3 million of these immigrants arrived from Ireland and Germany. Many of them were fleeing economic or political troubles in their native countries, fleeing the Irish potato famine. Most immigrants from British Isles during this period were Irish. In the mid 1840s, a potato blight, a disease that caused rot in potatoes, left many families in Ireland with little food. More than 1 million Irish people died of starvation and disease. Even more fled to the United States. Most Irish immigrants were poor. Many settled in cities in Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. They worked at unskilled jobs in the cities and or building canals and railroads. Irish women often worked as domestic servants for wealthy families, laboring 16 hours or more per day. In 1849, a Boston Health Committee reported that low wages forced most Irish immigrants to live in poor housing. Still, many immigrants enjoyed a new feeling of equality. Patrick Dunny wrote to his home and his family about this situation. Quote, people that cut a great dash at home think it's strange in the United States for a humble class of people to get as much respect as themselves. From Patrick Dunny. A failed German Revolution. Many Germans also came to the United States during this time. In 1848, some Germans had staged a revolution against harsh rule. Some educated Germans fled to the United States to escape persecution caused by their political activities. Most German immigrants, however, were working class, and they came for economic reasons. The United States seemed to offer both great economic opportunity and more freedom from government control. While most Irish immigrants were Catholics, German immigrant groups, including Catholic, Jews, and Protestants, German immigrants were more likely than Irish to become farmers and live in rural areas. They moved to Midwestern states where more land was available. Unlike the Irish, a high percentage of German immigrants arrived in the United States with money. Despite their funds and skills, German immigrants often were forced to take low-paying jobs. Many German immigrants worked as tailors, seamstresses, and bricklayers. Also, take a look on page 439 where it has push factors, and up to the left it has pull factors. Those are things that push you out of your country or things that pull you towards America. So they also served as servants, clerks, cabinet makers, bakers, and food merchants. Anti-immigration movements. Industrialization and the waves of people from Europe greatly changed the American labor force. While immigrants went to the Midwest to get farmland, other immigrants filled the need for cheap labor in towns and cities. Industrial jobs in the Northeast attracted many people. Yet a great deal of native-born Americans feared losing their jobs to immigrants who might work for lower wages. Some felt implicitly threatened by new immigrant cultures and religions. For example, before Catholic immigrants arrived, most Americans were Protestant. That means non-Catholic Christians. Catholics Conflicts between Catholics and Protestants in Europe caused American Protestants to mistrust Catholic immigrants. Those Americans and others who opposed immigration were called nativists. In 1840s and 1850s, some nativists became politically active. In an 1844 election flyer gave Americans this warning: "Look at the thieves, vagabonds roaming our streets, monopolizing the businesses which properly belongs to our own native true-born citizens." That's from an election flyer. In 1849, nativists founded a political organization known as the Know Nothing Party that supported measures in making it difficult for foreigners to become citizens or hold office. Its members wanted to keep the Catholics and immigrants out of public office. They also wanted to require immigrants to live in the United States for 21 years before becoming a citizen. The Know-Nothing politicians had some success getting elected during the 1850s. Later disagreements over the issue of slavery caused the party to fall apart. Okay. Reading check. Why did the Know Nothing Party try to limit the rights of immigrants? Maybe that's something you should review. Rapid growth of cities. Page 440 still. The Industrial Revolution led to the creation of many new jobs in American cities. These cities drew immigrants from many nations as well as migrants from rural parts of the United States. The Transportation Revolution helped connect cities and make it easier for people to move to them. As a result of these two trends, American cities grew rapidly during the mid-1800s. Cities in the northeastern and middle Atlantic states grew the most. By the mid-1800s, 3/4 of the country's manufacturing jobs were in these areas. The rise of industry and the growth of cities changed American life. Those who owned their own businesses or worked in skilled jobs benefited most from those changes. The families of these merchants, manufacturers, professional, and master craftspeople made up a growing social class. This new middle class was a social and economic level between the wealthy and the poor. Those in new middle class built large, dignified homes that demonstrated their place in society. In the growing cities, people found entertainment and enriched cultural life. Many enjoyed visiting places such as libraries or clubs, or attending concerts and lectures. In the mid-1800s, people also attended urban theaters. Favorite pastimes including bowling, boxing, and playing cards. The rules of baseball were formalized in 1845 and the game became increasingly popular. Cities during this time were compact and crowded. Many people lived close enough to their jobs that they could walk to work. Wagons carried goods down streets paved with stone, making a noisy, busy scene. One observer noted that the professionals in New York City always had a hurried walk. Again, speaking from personal experience, my uncle lived in New York City for many years during the 70s and 80s, and he was a very fast walking person. He never had a car while he lived out there. He walked or got on the subway. Notice the page on 441. You can see New York City in the mid-1800s was very crowded and very jam-packed. Sometimes they would have up to 15 people living in one room. All right, page 442. Urban problems. American cities in the mid-1800s faced many challenges due to rapid growth. Because public and private transportation was limited, city residents had to live near their workplaces. In addition, there was a lack of safe housing. Many city dwellers, particularly immigrants, could afford to live only in tenements. Tenements are large, crammed apartments. These are poorly designed apartment buildings that house a large number of people. These structures were often dirty, overcrowded, and unsafe. Public services were also poor. The majority of cities did not have clean water, public health regulations, or healthful ways to get rid of garbage and human and animal waste. Under these conditions, disease spreads easily, and epidemics were common. In 1832 and 1849, for example, New York City suffered cholera epidemics that killed thousands. City life held other dangers as urban areas grew. They mostly became the centers of criminal activity. Most cities, including New York, Boston, and Philadelphia, had no permanent or organized force to fight crime. Instead, they relied on volunteer night watches, which offered little protection. Fire was another constant and serious danger in crowded cities. There was little organized fire protection. Most cities were served by volunteer fire companies. Firefighters used hand pumps and buckets to put out fires. In addition, there were not enough sanitation workers and road maintenance crews. These shortages and flaws caused health and safety problems for many of the city's residents. So, just going back to epidemics, they lived in large, compact tenements where disease was rife because garbage was strewn on the street, animal waste was on the street, obviously from the horse and buggies, and people sometimes dumped their garbage and human waste out their windows at this time to let the streets wash it down to another area, which was very detrimental for human health, meaning bad. All right. So, analyzing our reading check, why did so many American cities have problems in the 1800s? Think about what happened in New York City. Our summary and preview. Immigrants expected a better life in America, but not all Americans welcome newcomers. The rapid growth of cities caused many problems. In the next section, you'll read about how Americans developed its own style of art and literature. That's it for section 1 for now. Chapter 14. We'll talk to you later.